At dinner, my parents casually dropped the news. My guest room was being turned into a nursery for my sister's baby. They'd already picked out cribs and were shipping them to my place like it was decided. I just sat there, stunned. Hi everyone. Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick. If you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I, 27M, need advice because I genuinely don't know if I'm losing my mind or if my family has completely lost touch with reality. I've been staring at my phone for the past hour trying to process what just happened during Sunday dinner at my parents' house. For context, I work as a software engineer and bought my first apartment 6 months ago, a modest 2-bedroom place about 20 minutes from my parents' house. The second bedroom is currently my home office/guest room. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, and I work damn hard to afford it. My younger sister Emily, 25F, is 7 months pregnant. She still lives with our parents, Robert, 55M, and Patricia, 53F, in their 4-bedroom house. She works part-time at a daycare, and the baby's father, Tyler, is, well, let's just say he's not in the picture anymore. I've been supportive throughout her pregnancy, driving her to appointments when needed, helping her shop for baby stuff, the usual uncle-to-be duties. Tonight at dinner, my mother casually mentioned that they'd been thinking about the nursery situation. I assumed she meant they were finally converting their spare bedroom into a nursery for Emily. That assumption lasted about 30 seconds. We've decided your guest room would make the perfect nursery, Patricia announced, cutting into her pot roast like she hadn't just dropped a bomb on my life. Babies need quiet spaces, and your apartment complex is so much more peaceful than our neighborhood. I literally choked on my water. I'm sorry. What? Robert jumped in, explaining their logic as if it made perfect sense. Think about it, son. We're right off the main road here, all that traffic noise. Your place has those double-paned windows, and you're on the 3rd floor. Much better for a baby's sleep schedule. Emily was nodding along enthusiastically. Plus, James, your apartment has that amazing natural light in the mornings. Perfect for the baby. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, trying to understand how MY apartment had suddenly become part of their nursery planning. But it's my apartment. That's my office. I work from home 3 days a week. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. Oh, you can work from the living room. People do it all the time. Besides, this is about family, James. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices. The conversation continued as if my consent was just a formality. They discussed paint colors, apparently. Soft yellow is gender-neutral and soothing, furniture placement, and even which of my belongings would need to be relocated to make room for a crib and changing table. We saw the most adorable elephant-themed mobile at Target today, Emily gushed. It would look perfect with the gray walls you already have. Wait, hold on. I finally managed to interrupt. Are you talking about the baby visiting my apartment? Or? The looks they exchanged should have been filmed for a documentary on family manipulation. Patricia reached over and patted my hand like I was a confused child. Well, obviously Emily and the baby will need to spend quite a bit of time there. You know how hard those first few months are. She'll need the peace and quiet to recover and bond with the baby. Plus, Robert added, it just makes sense. You're at work during the day, so the apartment would be empty anyway. Might as well put it to good use. Emily beamed at me. You're going to be such an amazing uncle, James. I can already picture you coming home to help with feedings and diaper changes. It'll be like our own little family unit. I tried to explain that I specifically chose a 2-bedroom apartment so I could have a dedicated workspace, that my lease has specific occupancy limits, that I'm not prepared to have a newborn in my space. Every concern was met with either dismissal or accusations of being selfish and not thinking about family. The final straw was when Patricia mentioned she'd already been looking at cribs online and had found one that would fit perfectly in that corner by the window, meaning she'd apparently been mentally redecorating my apartment without my knowledge. We can go shopping next weekend, she announced. Emily's due in 2 months, so we need to get everything set up soon. Oh, and we'll need to baby-proof your place too. Those kitchen cabinets will need locks, and we'll have to do something about all those electronics in your living room. I left shortly after that, claiming I had an early meeting. A lie. It's Sunday night. The whole drive home, my phone buzzed with texts from Emily sending me nursery inspiration photos and links to baby furniture. I'm sitting in my guest room/office right now, looking around at MY space that apparently isn't mine anymore. Am I crazy for thinking this is completely insane? How do I shut this down without becoming the family villain who hates his sister and unborn niece/nephew? Because from their reactions tonight, anything short of enthusiastic agreement makes me a monster who doesn't care about family. Please help me navigate this, because I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Update 1. Posted 5 days later. Well, it's been less than a week since my original post, and things have escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. Thank you to everyone who commented. You helped me realize I wasn't crazy and gave me the courage to try to set boundaries. Unfortunately, my family seems to have interpreted boundaries as challenge accepted. Monday morning, I sent a group text to my parents and Emily. I've been thinking about our conversation at dinner. While I'm excited to be an uncle and want to help however I can, I need to be clear that my apartment is my private space. I'm happy to help you set up a beautiful nursery at Mom and Dad's house, and I'll be there to support Emily and the baby, but my guest room needs to remain my office. Let's talk about other ways I can help. The response was not what I hoped for. Emily called me crying within minutes, sobbing about how she thought I'd be there for her, and how the baby already feels unwanted. Patricia followed up with a lengthy text about how disappointed she was in my selfishness and how she raised me better than this. I thought maybe they just needed time to cool off. I was wrong. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from my building's management office. They wanted to confirm the delivery scheduled for Friday afternoon. What delivery? Oh, just a crib, changing table, and rocking chair being delivered to my apartment. The order was placed by Patricia Johnson with my apartment number and my phone number as the contact. I immediately called my mother. Her response, "Oh good, they called to confirm. I wasn't sure if you'd be home, so I used your number. The delivery window is between 2 and 6 p.m. You do work from home on Fridays, right?" Mom, I didn't agree to this. You can't just order furniture to be delivered to my apartment. Don't be dramatic, James. We're just trying to help. Emily's been so stressed, and getting the nursery ready will ease her mind. Do you want your pregnant sister to be stressed? That's not good for the baby. I canceled the delivery, which apparently required multiple phone calls because the furniture store was confused about why I was refusing items for the baby's room. The sales associate actually said, "But your mother said you were expecting." I had to explain that no, I was not expecting. My sister was, and no, the baby would not be living with me. But the furniture delivery attempt was just the beginning. Thursday, Emily texted me a photo of paint swatches against my guest room wall. How did she take this photo? Because apparently my parents still have the spare key I gave them for emergencies, and they let themselves in while I was at the office to take measurements. I immediately drove home to find Emily, Patricia, and my father in my apartment with a measuring tape, notebook, and what looked like fabric samples. "What the hell are you doing in my apartment?" Robert looked up from where he was measuring the window. "Language, son, we're just trying to figure out where everything will go. That desk of yours is really taking up prime real estate. Have you considered a smaller one? Or maybe just using your laptop at the kitchen table?" Emily was sitting in my desk chair, rubbing her belly and looking around with a dreamy expression. I can really picture it now. The crib here, the changing table along that wall. "Oh, and James, would it be okay if we put up some of those removable wall decals? I found the cutest safari animal ones online." "Get out," I said, as calmly as I could manage. "All of you, this is breaking and entering." Patricia actually laughed. "Don't be ridiculous. We're family, and we use the key you gave us. For emergencies, not for redecorating my apartment without my permission." The argument that followed was ugly. Emily cried again, claiming I was ruining her pregnancy experience. Patricia accused me of being materialistic and valuing my things over family. Robert said he was disappointed to see what kind of man I'd become. I took back the spare key and told them to leave. As they were going, Patricia mentioned that maybe I needed time to think about what really matters, and that they'd revisit this when I was being more reasonable. That was yesterday. Today, I woke up to find a package at my door, a baby monitor with a note from Emily for our nursery. Can't wait to set it up together. Red heart. I also discovered that Emily has been posting on social media about preparing the baby's room at Uncle James' place and thanking me for being the best brother ever. Friends and extended family have been commenting about how wonderful it is that I'm helping out. My aunt even commented, "So nice that the baby will have 2 homes." I'm at a complete loss. They're acting like this is a done deal, and now they're making it public, which makes it even harder to shut down without looking like the bad guy. I've started looking into changing my locks, but I feel like I'm playing defense against my own family. The baby shower is next month, and I'm genuinely afraid of what's going to happen. At this rate, they'll probably list my address as the gift delivery location. I need to have another conversation with them, but I don't even know where to start. How do you reason with people who've decided your boundaries are just suggestions? Update 2, posted 3 weeks later. I can't believe I'm back here again, but things have somehow managed to get even more insane. For those following this bizarre saga, buckle up because my family has apparently decided that reality is optional. After my last update, I did change my locks. I also had a serious sit-down conversation with Emily where I tried to be supportive while still maintaining boundaries. I told her I'd help her look for affordable apartments, offered to help with the deposit, and even said I'd help her set up the nursery wherever she ended up living. She seemed to understand and even thanked me for being honest. That lasted exactly 4 days. The baby shower was this past Saturday. I debated not going but decided that would only make things worse. Plus, several relatives I actually like were coming from out of town, and I wanted to see them. Big mistake. The shower was at my parents' house, and from the moment I walked in, something felt off. Emily kept making weird comments like, "Just wait until you see what we got," and Patricia had this smug smile that made my stomach drop. About halfway through the gift opening, Emily announced she had a special surprise for everyone. She pulled out her phone and started a video presentation. The title slide read, "Baby Thompson's Nursery Tour." My blood ran cold. The video was a full tour of MY apartment, specifically MY guest room, fully decorated as a nursery. I'm talking painted walls, furniture, decorations, the works. They broken into my apartment again. The video showed Emily waddling around MY space, describing where everything would go, even showing off the closet reorganized with baby clothes. "And here's where all the diapers will be stored," she chirped in the video, opening what used to be my office supply closet. Uncle James was so thoughtful to clear out space for us. The room erupted in us, and congratulations. People were telling me how wonderful I was, what a devoted brother, how lucky Emily was to have me. I sat there frozen, unable to speak. My cousin Michelle must have seen my face because she leaned over and whispered, "Are you okay? You look like you're going to be sick." I excused myself and went outside to call the police. Yes, the police, because they'd broken into my apartment and vandalized it. The dispatcher seemed confused when I explained it was my family who'd done it, but they agreed to send someone to check my apartment. When I went back inside, Patricia cornered me in the kitchen. "Where did you disappear to?" "Emily's about to show everyone the crib assembly video. You broke into my apartment. Again, after I expressly told you not to." She rolled her eyes. "We didn't break in. We had a key made. For convenience. You really need to stop being so dramatic about this." "You had a key made? Well, you changed the locks. How else were we supposed to get the nursery ready?" The level of delusion was staggering. She said this like I was the unreasonable one for changing my locks after they'd already broken in once. I left the shower immediately, which caused a scene. Emily started crying again, and several relatives tried to stop me, saying I was ruining her special day. I told them to ask Emily why she thought it was appropriate to break into my apartment and redecorate without permission. When I got to my apartment with the police, the transformation was complete. They'd painted the walls a soft mint green, assembled a white crib with elephant-themed bedding, hung pictures, installed a mobile, placed a rocking chair in the corner, and even put up shelves filled with baby supplies. My desk, computer, files, everything was gone, presumably stuffed into my bedroom closet, because that's where we found most of it, jammed and haphazardly. The police took my statement, but seemed skeptical until I showed them the text messages explicitly stating I didn't consent to any of this. They said it was a civil matter since family was involved, but documented everything. They suggested I could file for a restraining order if I felt threatened. While I was dealing with the police, my phone exploded with messages from family members. Apparently, Patricia had spun the story that I'd called the cops on my pregnant sister for decorating the room I'd promised her. Extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years were calling me heartless. The next morning, Sunday, I hired a locksmith to install new locks with unpickable cores and added a security camera to my door. I also called a lawyer because this had gone beyond family drama into legal territory. Then came Monday's bombshell. I got a call from my landlord. Apparently, my parents had contacted him about adding Emily to the lease, since she'd be staying there regularly with the baby. They presented themselves as concerned parents trying to ensure their daughter had stable housing and even offered to pay an additional security deposit for the wear and tear from the baby. My landlord, thankfully, called me first. I explained the situation, and he was appalled. He said he'd make it clear that no one else was authorized to be added to my lease and that any unauthorized occupants would result in eviction proceedings. But here's the kicker. When he called my parents back to decline their request, Patricia told him I must be having mental health issues and that they were concerned about my paranoid behavior. She actually suggested that maybe they should be added to the lease to keep an eye on me. I'm now dealing with an apartment that's been turned into a nursery against my will, parents who were telling people I'm having a mental breakdown, their sister who's now 9 months pregnant and still believes she's moving in with me, extended family who think I'm a monster, actual legal bills from having to hire a lawyer, at the cost of having to undo all their improvements to my guest room. Yesterday, I got a text from Emily. Labor could start any day now. So excited to bring the baby home to our beautiful nursery. Thank you for everything. Best brother ever. 2 hearts. I don't even know how to respond to that. How do you tell someone who's about to give birth that the nursery they've been planning doesn't exist? That they've been living in a complete fantasy? My lawyer says I have a strong case for breaking and entering, vandalism, and harassment. But do I really want to send my parents to jail? Have my sister give birth while dealing with criminal charges? I'm trapped between protecting myself and destroying my family. And with a baby due any moment, I feel like I'm running out of time to figure this out. Update 3, posted 6 weeks later. I know it's been a while since my last update, and honestly, I've been putting off writing this because I'm still processing everything that's happened. Thank you to everyone who's been following this insane journey and offering support. You have no idea how much it's helped to know I'm not crazy. So where to begin? Emily went into labor 2 days after my last post. I found out via a family group text that I'd been removed from and then re-added to. The message from Patricia read, Emily's in labor. We're at the hospital. James, make sure the nursery is ready for when we bring your niece home tomorrow. I didn't respond. I was at my lawyer's office, filing paperwork for a cease and desist order and discussing my options for pressing charges. My lawyer, Kevin, had actually laughed out loud when he saw the nursery tour video from the baby shower. In 30 years of practice, this is a first, he'd said. Baby Olivia was born healthy at 3:47 a.m. I know because Robert sent me 17 photos and a video, along with a message, time to step up and be the uncle we raised you to be. I did visit Emily in the hospital the next day. I brought flowers and a gift card, planning to keep things brief and cordial. Emily was exhausted but glowing, and for a moment, things felt normal. Then she asked, is everything ready at your place? Emily, we've discussed this. You're not moving into my apartment. Her face crumpled. But the nursery? We worked so hard. Patricia, who'd been cooing over the baby, turned on me. James Robert Thompson, your sister just gave birth. This is not the time for your selfishness. No, this is exactly the time to be clear. Emily and Olivia are not moving into my apartment. You need to make other arrangements. What followed was exactly what you'd expect. Tears, accusations, nurses having to ask us to keep it down. I left after 10 minutes. The next 3 days were a nightmare of manipulation. They tried everything. Showing up at my apartment with Emily and the baby, claiming she had nowhere else to go. She lived with our parents in their 4-bedroom house. Having relatives call me at all hours to guilt-trip me. Emily posting on social media about being homeless with a newborn while sitting in my parents' living room. Patricia leaving voicemails about how the stress was affecting Emily's ability to breastfeed. Then came the nuclear option. I got home from work on Friday to find Emily sitting in my hallway with baby Olivia in a carrier, surrounded by diaper bags and suitcases. She was crying, the baby was crying, and several neighbors had gathered, looking concerned. Emily, what are you doing? Mom and Dad kicked me out, she wailed. They said if you wouldn't help family, then they couldn't either. We have nowhere to go. One of my neighbors, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chin, was glaring at me like I was the devil incarnate. Your sister and her baby have been out here for an hour. I knew immediately this was staged. The theatrical positioning, the conveniently timed crying, the audience of neighbors, pure manipulation. Emily, get up. I'll drive you back to Mom and Dad's. They won't let me in. They said I need to learn what it's like to not have family support since you abandoned us. I called Robert's cell. He answered on the first ring, suspicious, since he usually lets it go to voicemail. Dad, what's this about kicking Emily out? Well, son, you've made it clear that family doesn't help family in this household. We're just following your example. Cut the crap. I know this is a manipulation tactic. I don't know what you're talking about. If Emily says she can't come home, then she can't come home. I could hear Patricia in the background coaching him. I had 2 choices. Let my sister and newborn niece sit in my hallway for however long this charade would continue, making me look like a monster to my neighbors or call their bluff in a very public way. I chose option 2. I hung up and immediately called 911. I need police assistance. My sister is refusing to leave my apartment building and claims to be homeless with her newborn baby. I believe this is a domestic dispute and possible child endangerment. Emily's eyes went wide. James, what are you doing? Ending this. The police arrived within 10 minutes. I explained the situation, showed them the documentation from my lawyer, the break-in reports, everything. Meanwhile, Emily was frantically calling our parents, who miraculously were suddenly available to take her in. The officers were not amused. One of them, Officer Williams, looked at Emily and said, "Ma'am, do you have a place to stay?" My parents. They just said I could come home. So you're not homeless? Well, no, but... And you're sitting outside your brother's apartment. Why? The truth came spilling out in a jumbled mess. The officers listened, their expressions growing more stern by the minute. They ended up giving Emily a warning about trespassing and told her that if she showed up again without my permission, she'd be arrested. As they escorted her out, Officer Williams pulled me aside. Get a restraining order. This isn't over. He was right. The next 2 weeks were relatively quiet. Too quiet. I knew they were planning something. The family had split into camps. Those who thought I was being cruel and those who'd heard the full story and were appalled. My cousin Michelle actually called to apologize for believing the initial narrative. Then, last Monday, I got a certified letter. My parents were suing me for unjust enrichment and breach of oral contract. They claimed I'd verbally agreed to house Emily and the baby, that they'd spent money preparing my nursery based on this agreement, and they wanted compensation for the furniture they bought, the paint and decorations. Emotional distress. Emily's lost wages from not being able to work due to unstable housing. The total? $47,000. I actually laughed when I read it. Then I called Kevin, my lawyer, who also laughed. They have no case, he assured me, but they're going to make this as painful as possible. We counterfiled for a breaking and entering, a vandalism, a harassment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, a defamation for telling people I was having mental health issues. The total damages we're seeking? $73,000, including legal fees. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. Last Thursday, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Tyler, Emily's ex and Olivia's father. He'd been following the drama online. Emily had been very public about everything and wanted to meet. Over coffee, Tyler revealed some interesting information. He'd been wanting to be involved, but Emily and my parents had been blocking him. He'd offered to get an apartment with Emily, but she'd refused, saying she had better arrangements. He'd been documenting everything and had screenshots of Emily discussing the plan to move in with James, dating back months. And most importantly, he'd filed for custody rights and wanted my testimony about the unstable situation. I'm not trying to take Olivia away, he explained, but Emily needs a reality check. She can't raise a baby in this fantasy world your parents have created. I gave him Kevin's contact information. The aftermath has been swift and brutal. Emily found out about Tyler's custody filing and my involvement. The family group chat, which I'm somehow back in, exploded. Patricia called me a traitor to blood. Robert said I was no longer his son. Emily sent a voice message screaming that I was trying to steal her baby. But here's the thing. Other family members are finally seeing the light. My Aunt Sarah called Patricia out publicly, pointing out that they had a perfectly good house for Emily and the baby. My Uncle Christopher shared that he'd been asked to lie about my mental health issues and refused. Cousins who'd been silent started sharing their own stories of my parents' manipulation over the years. The legal cases are ongoing. Tyler's custody hearing is next month. The lawsuit my parents filed has been mostly dismissed, though some claims are still being reviewed. My countersuit is moving forward. Emily and Olivia are still living with my parents. Last I heard, they'd finally set up a nursery in their spare bedroom. You know, like normal people would have done from the start. I haven't spoken to any of them in 2 weeks. I've had to block them on all social media and change my phone number. The security camera I installed has captured them trying to enter my building 3 times. Each attempt has been reported to the police. My apartment is finally back to normal. I hired professional painters to undo their nursery and had to fight with my landlord about the unauthorized modifications. Thankfully, he was understanding given the circumstances. My guest room is once again my office. But the cost has been astronomical, not just financially. though the legal fees are killing me, but emotionally, I've effectively lost my immediate family. Some days, I wonder if I should have just let them have the room. Then I remember that it was never about the room. It was about control, manipulation, and their complete disregard for my autonomy. Tyler sent me a photo yesterday of him holding Olivia during his supervised visitation. She's beautiful and deserves better than this chaos. Maybe that's why I fought so hard, not just for myself, but to show her that boundaries matter, that family doesn't mean letting people steamroll you, that love isn't manipulation. I don't know what the future holds. Court dates are pending. Family relationships are destroyed. But I'm sleeping better knowing I stood up for myself, even if it cost me everything. To everyone who said, get a lawyer, you were right. To those who said it would escalate, you were also right. But to those who said I should have just given in to keep the peace, you were wrong. There was never going to be peace, just surrender. I'll update after the court cases conclude, but for now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life without the toxic dynamics I grew up thinking were normal. Thank you all for helping me see that I wasn't the crazy one. Your support meant more than you'll ever know. Final update, 3 months later. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I finally have closure to share. I've debated whether to write this, but I know many of you have been invested in this bizarre journey, and honestly, writing it out helps me process everything that's happened. First, the legal outcomes. Tyler was granted joint custody of Olivia. The judge was not impressed with Emily's unstable housing situation. Her words from the social media posts came back to haunt her, or the fact that she'd been denying a willing father access to his child. Tyler now has Olivia every other week, and by all accounts, he stepped up remarkably as a father. My parents' lawsuit against me was dismissed with prejudice. The judge actually used the words frivolous and bad faith in his ruling. They were ordered to pay my legal fees, which came to about $15,000. My countersuit was more complex. We settled out of court for $32,000, which covered, at the cost of restoring my apartment, my additional security measures, emotional distress, and the remainder of my legal fees. They had 90 days to pay. That deadline was last week. But the real victory, the restraining orders. Both my parents and Emily are legally required to stay 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace for the next 2 years. The judge was particularly concerned about the pattern of escalation and the fact that they'd had keys made to my apartment without permission. Now, the personal aftermath. The family completely imploded. It turns out I wasn't the only one who'd been subjected to Patricia and Robert's manipulation over the years. Once I stood up publicly, others started sharing their stories. An aunt, Sarah, revealed that Patricia had tried to force her to host Emily's wedding to a different ex in her backyard, going so far as to send out invitations without asking. A uncle, Christopher, shared that Robert had once tried to borrow his truck for 6 months and acted like Christopher was selfish for needing his own vehicle. And my cousin, David, told us about the time Patricia volunteered his wife to cater a family event, then shamed her publicly when she declined. The family basically split into 2 camps, those who enabled my parents and those who'd been victims of their manipulation. Thanksgiving was apparently a disaster, with only 3 people showing up to Patricia's dinner. Emily's situation deteriorated quickly. Without me as her planned childcare/housing solution, she had to face reality. She couldn't afford her own place on part-time daycare wages, and our parents, despite their large house, made it clear that they hadn't signed up to raise another child. Last I heard through the family grapevine, Emily had to move in with our grandmother in another state. Grandma runs a tight ship and doesn't tolerate nonsense, so Emily's having to actually adult for the first time in her life. She's working full-time now and saving for her own place. The baby furniture they'd bought for my nursery. It's in Tyler's apartment now. He sent me a photo of Olivia's room. It's lovely, and, more importantly, it's in a home where she's actually wanted and planned for. As for me, the past few months have been a journey of recovery and self-discovery. I started therapy to unpack the decades of manipulation I'd normalized. My therapist helped me understand that what I experienced was a form of abuse, emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and violation of boundaries that had been happening since childhood. I've also built stronger relationships with the family members who supported me. Cousin Michelle and I have dinner once a month. Aunt Sarah checks in regularly. Uncle Christopher helped me install additional security measures in my apartment, with my landlord's permission this time. Work has been understanding through all of this. My manager, who'd heard bits and pieces of the saga, told me she was proud of how I'd handled such a difficult situation. The stability of my job and my own space has been crucial to my healing. I've even started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to explore relationships without the toxic family dynamics hanging over my head. My girlfriend, Jennifer, has heard the whole story and her reaction was, "Thank God you have boundaries." That's so attractive. It's refreshing to be with someone who sees boundaries as healthy rather than selfish. Last week, something interesting happened. I got a letter, an actual, handwritten letter, from Emily. No return address, but the postmark was from Grandma's town. In it, she apologized. Not the manipulative, "I'm sorry you feel that way" type, but a real apology. She admitted she'd been living in a fantasy, enabled by our parents, and that becoming a mother herself had made her realize how wrong they'd all been. She wrote, "I wanted to believe that you'd take care of us because it was easier than facing my own responsibilities. I see now that I was trying to make you into Olivia's father figure because I was scared to do this alone. That wasn't fair to you, to Olivia, or even to Tyler. I'm in therapy now, too, and I'm learning a lot about myself. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I finally understand. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure if I will. The therapy has taught me that forgiveness is for me, not them, and I'm not there yet. Maybe someday." Patricia and Robert. Radio silence, except through their lawyer when they paid the settlement. Mutual family members say they're still spinning the story, but fewer and fewer people are buying it. They've become cautionary tales in our extended family about what happens when you cross boundaries. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd just given in. If I'd let them have the room, let Emily move in, become the co-parent they decided I should be. But then I look around my peaceful apartment, my apartment, and I know I made the right choice. My guest room/office is set up exactly how I want it. I work from there 3 days a week in peace. Friends actually stay over now because there's space for them. Last month, my best friend from college visited, and we stayed up late talking in that room, the room that was almost stolen from me. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. Your validation, advice, and support got me through the darkest period of my life. You helped me see that I wasn't crazy, that boundaries aren't selfish, and that family doesn't mean accepting abuse. To anyone facing similar situations, document everything. Get a lawyer. Trust your instincts. It will be hard, harder than you can imagine, but living authentically is worth the pain of cutting toxicity out of your life. I'm closing this chapter now. Olivia is thriving with parents who are learning to co-parent properly. Emily is growing up and taking responsibility. I have peace in my home and my life, and my parents. They're living with the consequences of their actions, which is exactly where they should be. My therapist asked me last week if I regret how things turned out. I told her the truth. I regret that it came to this, but I don't regret standing up for myself. That little boy who was taught that family means no boundaries, he's finally free, and that freedom, it's worth everything I lost to gain it.